Welcome back. Of course, this is my vlog for those of you who are tuning in. So my vlog is all about a veteran story, me being the veteran, and it's about my preparation for the Appalachian Trail third hike, which I'm about to explore in 2026. So the game plan is April 1st to the end of July. I want to do it within 120 days, but in preparation, my hiking has become central to who I am as a person. And so I constantly want to explore that. And my friend Carol here is going to help me understand what in the
But
world
she's
am I doing?
she's gonna
Um,
try.
because there's so many things here that have been transformative in
Yeah.
terms of my life, meaning it's not initially it was a preparing my physical body to do this expedition of, 2,193 miles, which is a lot. Um, I have PTSD. I'm a disabled veteran with PTSD, and this has actually helped me deal with the
Yeah.
symptomology related to PTSD in terms of I get overwhelmed easily. I have nightmares and I'm scared of the dark. So there's a lot of things here
Mm.
that could easily unpack. And I'm seeing a therapist, and so we talk about some of these issues. But one of the core things that this preparation has kind of led me to was to kind of put my life, help me understand my life. Now, my life is a lot about pushing my physical body to the extremes for different measures, but I have found that in doing so, the transformative process has really created a healthy body, hopefully,
Yeah. Of
but
course.
it's also created a healthy mind, spirit, emotions, which I've not really had before. So it's kind of pulling my body together in a way that I have a difficult time explaining.
And now you want me to.
I want you to, I want help. Okay, so Carol, I need you to help me understand what's going on with me. Let's start with the body. What's going on with my body when I put it to extremes? And the extremes is a 24-mile hike, which takes me about 9 hours to complete. What's going on with me?
Well, lots of things, right? Lots of things. I mean, we know that activity is good for us. Why is that? Because when we do exercise, here's a stat for you. If you exercise just 30 minutes, not the hours that you do 3 times a week, you decrease your major depressive symptoms. That's
Okay.
30 minutes 3 times a week. If you continue exercising, if you keep that exercise going, you decrease the risk of them returning. Now, I'm going to give you another stat just because it's so interesting to me. So, Duke University did some research on exercise on middle-aged and older people and who were depressed. Yes,
Okay.
us. We'll say middle-aged. And so the first group did just exercise only. It was for 6 weeks. The second group did just medication for depression, antidepressants. The third group did antidepressants plus exercise. This is so interesting. So after 6 weeks, only 8% of the exercise group fell back into their depression. The people who were on medication, 38%, their depression resurfaced. What do you think happened to the exercise and the medication group?
I hate questions, and I'm the
Well,
question guy.
it's shocking. You'd think that they would do really well. Actually, 31% of them relapsed into depression.
Okay.
So, exercise is powerful. I think exercise is powerful. We know we get a release of endorphins, those feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin. So, if you're depressed, if you're feeling down, that starts to make you feel better. Exercise gives
Naturally. It naturally makes.
naturally,
Okay.
naturally, yeah, they're released naturally. And so it's one of the best things that we can do. We know that when we move and when we're doing activity, specifically, let's think about your hiking, you're outside, you're in nature. That in itself we know is really healing. We know that it feels better to be in nature. And as we're exercising, as you're hiking, you're getting fitter, you're getting stronger. We know all of that, but you're also taking self-control over what's happening to your body. You've got some sense of agency, so you feel like there's a sense of accomplishment. So you start to internally feel a little better about yourself. You get a little more self-confidence. And when you're out hiking, you're looking around, you're taking in, wobbly roads and paths and rocks and you don't want to slip and there are trees and there are probably animals and it stops you ruminating on whatever might be worrying you. So it has such a profound effect on mind, body, and spirit that I think it's probably the best self-care package that you could come to.
And that's exactly what I wanted you to say, but I want to break that down. And only because not that I want everybody to go out there and hike 20 miles
Yeah,
a day
yeah,
or even on the weekend.
yeah,
Um, but some type of physical activity. And for
yeah,
me, it's hiking,
yeah,
the best type of self-care package. We've talked before about what self-care means, and
yeah.
in different communities, it means different things.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
specifically, I want to go back to something you said because it's become
mhm.
more and more important in my personal understanding of what's going on. Agency, you said the word agency, and I used the word
Yeah,
personal agency,
yeah,
um, just to make sure that it's talking about self.
yeah,
Can you elaborate, please, on what that means, what agency
yeah,
means?
yeah. We're in a world of quick fixes. We want the quickest diet, the quickest way to get fit. Look, I'm the same. If you could give me a pill to lose 20 pounds, I would like it. Thank you. But, the reality is we have to take responsibility for ourselves. We can't outsource everything and expect others to make us better. They can help, they can support us. But as you know, I'm in the grief world, and in that world, I talk of active participation, which is the same sort of thing, agency. Where are we going to support ourselves? And I think that's what I mean by agency. It makes you take responsibility and it builds your self confidence and it allows you to take control of your life in perhaps an uncontrollable situation or circumstances. What can you do for yourself that will make you feel better or help you improve?
And the reason this has become so valuable to me is I've been doing some reading on agency and self-efficacy and
Mm-hmm.
trying to really understand they're connected, but they're not necessarily the same. And I'm trying to figure it out. And maybe those who are watching and listening can kind of help me in the comments below. In that and I may be wrong here, so it's kind of put me in my place. Self-efficacy being the belief that you can influence your surroundings, your environment, your person to take control, and agency is the action of
Doing.
taking control.
Yeah, that
Um,
seems reasonable to me. I think
well,
so.
reasonable is a good way to approach this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because again, the value here for me has been 5 suicide attempts, last one being 2021, a heart attack in 2022, and everything, all of that together was really kind of creating this my life, and you could see it just closing in
Getting
and
smaller. Yeah.
crushing it. And especially after my heart attack, when I thought I was doing the right things in the right way. And for me, I like exercise. I like to move my body. I like to exercise. I like how it feels. And you just give
Hmm.
credibility to all that. Um, but I was doing it in very much an egotistical way because by nature you can see how big I am, and I'm a man and I'm older. I'm middle-aged apparently.
Yeah,
Meaning
yeah.
that I want to look my best. I want to be strong. I want to be healthy. I want to kind of have the muscles and all that kind of stuff. So I was eating and exercising for a certain image that people would see me, but I was killing my body. I was destroying my kidneys and my heart
Hmm.
attack,
Hmm. Hmm.
all these things, meaning that I would eat just about anything high salt, high fat, didn't matter because I really believed that the exercise would mitigate all of those negative variables.
Well, it's
It
interesting
didn't.
because what you're talking about is you cared what you looked like because of being judged by other people as an external. So you were doing it for external reasons. Whereas now, when I hear you talk about your hiking, it is really an internal, deep thing that you want to do, that you want to achieve, that you value, and there's purpose in what you're doing. And I think
Very
there's a
much so.
difference.
And I hope that we can kind of explore that beyond this particular conversation because there's so much more
Yeah.
there. The heart attack really was kind of this awakening, next level of awakening, meaning that the cardiologist and my medical team would constantly say, from whatever motivation they had, is that once you've had your first heart attack, you're going to have another. And that's never really a good thing. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
they told
serious.
you that?
Yeah, my
Okay.
cardiologist was big on that. And I guess that's why he became a cardiologist because there's money in it. Saying if you're gonna
Maybe.
have one, you're gonna have more than one. Um, I don't want to have another one.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If the only reason why it hurt like hell. And
Mm.
this is a YouTube video. It did hurt a lot. It hurts I mean, to an extraordinary, even more than being shot. And I've been shot before,
Oh,
as a
wow.
Marine. Um, it just hurts, but I don't want to have a heart attack. I
Well, that's an
want,
internal drive, isn't it
it
now?
is an
That's your
internal
internal
drive,
drive.
but I was so depressed
Yeah.
for like from October to like midsummer of 2023. And people that knew me, and I don't think we had a relationship at that
No.
point, but people that knew me knew something was wrong. And I was really
Hmm.
kind of depressed because of this overarching idea that I'm going to have another heart attack. And I don't know how or when the self-efficacy said, I have the ability to change
Yeah.
some things. And then the agency took over and started doing it, where the hiking and the intentional healthy eating and the mindfulness and the meditation all start, I'm
Come
bringing those
together.
things in and changing everything. And so mid 2023, and here we are, 2025, 2 years post all that depression, this has become so much more. And in words I can't even begin to explain because it's all about the efficacy, the agency, the intention, the mindfulness, but it's no longer about, like you said, it's no longer about what's out here in my in
Yeah.
my in my space.
Yeah.
It's all about what's going on inside of me. I feel more in control.
Yeah.
I feel better about myself. I feel that I have the ability to do things, efficacy, agency. Earlier, you talked about all of the positive values, all the variables that are
Hmm.
consistent with exercising.
Hmm.
Surely there's more that reach beyond the biochemistry that's going on inside.
Well, well, I
Maybe?
don't know. I don't know if there is or how to. We've said this, trying to find the words for it, because really it's exercise affects our whole body, and our whole body is not just the body and the physiological, as you're saying. It's
Okay.
for us, I think it's mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
And so when one is depressed, it's very hard to connect possibly to spirit or to a more to the consciousness because you're so down. And so when you start exercising and you get the biochemical changes and you start to feel better and you then start to notice, that I think opens your heart. I think it opens your mind. to other things because you're not so focused on that internal depression, or it's getting you out of that. You know, when you're depressed, it's hard to get moving. Let's be honest. We
Mm.
all mostly know that exercise is good for us. And most people who are depressed are going to be told you need to get out and exercise. And they may know it intellectually and they may want to do it. And yet they don't have the agency, they don't have the ability to get off the sofa to get out there. But and once they do it for a few days and they notice, oh, I quite enjoyed that little walk. 10-minute walk can make a difference. Once you do that, it changes how you feel. When you change how you feel, it opens you up to more feelings. But I think the exercise has to be based, it's the physiological part first that then opens us up to the rest. I think, but I don't really know.
If well, let's take that as the right assumption. Uh,
Okay,
let's work with that as the right assumption
okay,
because, like I said earlier, I've always been somebody to be active.
yeah,
And so even in my depressive state, again, post
yeah,
heart attack, going through it all, I still got out and walked.
yeah,
I started to put, more weight in my rucksack. I kept the body moving. So in
right.
your words, that allowed my body to be open physiologically to outside the physiological, to the spiritual, to the cognitive, to the mental, to the emotional.
Mhm.
And maybe if we take that logic on its own path, that the first step is to move.
It
The
is.
second step would be to feel and experience. And the third step would be allow our mind, our thinking to change.
Yeah,
Maybe that is a very specific pathway that
that's a really
we can
beautiful
help others
pathway.
with.
It's a beautiful pathway because when we're thinking of depression or PTSD, we know we're in a hypervigilant state, we're in fight or flight. And if you stay home, you can keep ruminating and doing that. But when we start moving the emotions and we start, I can't think, I was going to say triggering, not the right word, but we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, calms us down. It
Mm.
calms us down. And when we can bring our internal nervous system into a state of calm, then then we can open up to the feelings. Then we can allow, and part of it is how do we allow what we're feeling without it overtaking us? And Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps Score, wrote a book about, we keep trauma in our body. So you've
Right.
been shot, you've been a Marine. I'm sure there's an awful lot of stuff there held in there in the body, and exercise and movement helps us to release that, to move it. And I think we have to look at that too.
I think I think I'm tending to believing, all that to be true and the right path to take, especially for me. Because that has been, now that we're having this conversation
Mm,
and I am truly intentionally thinking about how things have progressed, evolved, especially in the
mhm.
past 2 years, um, helping me gain an understanding and an appreciation of the process. And like I said, the path. And I
Mhm,
tend to use
mhm.
the path as my metaphor for
Yeah,
evolution, and the book is behind me.
yeah,
But there needed to be words to the experience, and I just didn't have the words, and I definitely didn't have the research. So I'm glad that you've shared some of the, the Duke
you're
University
welcome.
research
Yeah,
and
yeah,
some of the other statistics that really kind of bring light to the fact that the body, our physical body, is kind of the starting point to
yeah,
change, because
yes,
once we get it moving, all the things that are occurring inside of the body, the release of endorphins and all the other good things that should be happening, are the catalyst, are the
yes,
facilitator to greater health control and I guess the
Yeah,
experience that we're wanting in
I
order
think
to
so. And I think
create.
it's important to point out that, it may not be the same for everybody. And the other big question I think is what is it within one person that allows them to take that route of, you know what, I've got to move. I know I need to move and I'm going to do it and has that agency and does it compared to somebody else who is just unable to do it for whatever reason. So not everybody is going to do this and take this path, even though we know it's a path that may help them. This, what is it within us? What is it, again, for grievers? What is it that keeps some people stuck for years and years and years and years and years, and they never ever able to move forward? And others who are like, this is awful. I'm sad. I can bring it forward with me, and I want to live my life. So is there an internal drive in us that wants more, that wants to expand our life, that makes the difficulty of perhaps hiking 12 miles a day worthwhile because you get so much back from it? What's that driver inside that does it? That's an interesting question.
That's an interesting question that I can't answer. I just know
You
that
don't have that
I
answer?
just know that it exists in me, but
Yeah,
what you ask is important because and behind everything that I'm going through now is my desire to step on stage and meaning
hmm,
that I want to be a public speaker and I'm working
yeah,
towards that goal with the foundation of my message is the very thing that we're talking about today.
yeah,
Because I I live it.
yeah,
And working with my coach, the the number of variables to say this works for me, it may not work for everybody. And you just indicated that, some people
yeah.
are not ever and going to get out off the sofa. And I'm thinking, well, what would be that variable or set of variables that would get them off the sofa?
Hmm.
And that's where my mind went. I don't want there to
Yeah.
be, I'm never going to be able to do this the way you do it. That's okay. And I totally get it. And I'm not asking 1,000 people to get up and do a
Walk the
12-mile
Appalachian
walk,
Trail.
or walk the Appalachian Trail. But if the truth that we're coming to the conversation with is that the movement of the physical body is the start of an evolution,
Yes.
then we got to get them up and out in whatever capacity that looks like. And I do know that there are people who are physically disabled,
Yeah.
veterans included, who may not have the.
Capacity or ability.
I was going to, yeah, I was looking for those words, but it's really a matter of, it's more than that, because I think you were hinting to the fact that there's a variable there that separates those who are immediately able to jump into the activity, those who can't immediately jump into the activity. On that, in that community, what variable or variables can at least get them outside? Let's get them breathing the air
Yeah.
outside of the house and then move from there. So we don't have to answer that question today, but I think it's something that we should.
I think, you know what, as a physical therapist, that's exactly what I would have done with someone. So, what's the very minimal thing that you can do today? You can do 30 seconds on that exercise bike. That's perfect. And in fact, that's what I would do with them.
Okay.
And we would do it so low that it was almost eye-rollingly pathetic. You'd think, God, anybody can do 15 seconds. And I'd say, only increase it by 15 seconds the next time you're on there, because you can do that. You're flying under the radar of a threat to the nervous system, because the nervous system's like, whoa, you're telling me to do 5 minutes on the bike? I can't do that. That's going to increase my pain. If I say do 30 seconds, somebody's going to go, okay, I think I can do that. Let's increase it so small, so incrementally, that all of a sudden you're at 30 minutes. It takes a while to get there, but you get there without triggering that fight or flight within.
Hmm.
And so it's how do we make it easy enough and appealing enough for somebody to get off that sofa and just sit on the deck and then appreciate the nature and then do a little bit more.
I think you and I are on very similar paths to help other people kind of make that reconnection with their life, past
Mhm.
grief, trauma, and disconnection.
Yeah.
And I want to end the
Yes.
conversation on that positive note because I
Yeah.
also know that, you are on your journey and in a way of helping others.
Last
Yeah.
little bit.
So as we close up this conversation, and the reason I'm smiling is we've had some technical challenges for those who are watching and listening. So both Carol and I have been having internet issues. Anyway, with that being as it is, I think you're right, Carol. I think we're both on a journey, and not only our personal journeys to figure it all out, but our professional journeys to kind of help other people make those evolutionary or transformative changes within their own lives. And if we could start with physical movement, knowing that that's going to be the catalyst to greater things, then that really does put some value to everything that I've asked you to come here and have a conversation with, is to help me understand that how my hiking has become so valuable is because it's actually making my body become alive again. The physiological impacts of hiking activity, and to the extreme level that I do it in, has really become, the essence of who I am. And so, like we said earlier, my physical activity has always been about how people perceive me.
Mhm.
Now my physical activity is about how I perceive myself and
Yeah.
how I live the life that I want to live. Carol,
Yeah.
thank you so
Mhm.
much for this
Thank you, Keith.
conversation. Hopefully we'll have to have more.
I'm
And
sure we
in
will.
any way possible, I can support you in your journey to get on stage now. You want to become a public speaker,
Yes, that's
to
right.
broaden your reach. Let me know how I can help you.
Okay, will do.
Carol, thank you so much.
Thanks, Keith.